Welcome back. It is time now for a look at business. I'm joined by Owen Fairclough, our business editor.
Hello, Melissa.
We're going to look at the first full day's trade on world markets after the Easter break. How's it looking so far?
All very choppy, very depressed, really, Melissa, as you might expect after an extended break. The Nikkei actually swinging into the red in the afternoon trading session, now down by around 1/3%. The Bank of Japan has indicated that it's going to keep those record low interest rates on hold. No indications that it's likely to follow the European Central Bank or the Federal Reserve in putting billions into the economy to try and revive it. So you can see the rest of the markets following suit as well. The Hang Seng still off by over 1%.
I've also had the first big acquisition of the quarter. Facebook has bought Instagram.
Instagram is barely 2 years old, Melissa, but it's influential. Even Barack Obama has an account with this application. It's basically a photo sharing application, has some 27 million users already, and it's attracted the attention of Mark Zuckerberg, who's just made millionaires of Instagram's founders. Some analysts say Facebook has overpaid for this company, but Facebook will inevitably see it as a chance to stop its rivals getting an edge over it. Kate Moody has the story.
It's Facebook's biggest acquisition yet, $1 billion for Instagram, a free application on smartphones that was launched just 2 years ago. Instagram allows users to add filters to photos snapped on their mobile devices to give them a retro feel, and then share them easily on Facebook, Twitter, or other social networks. More than 30 million people use the application, and Apple named it iPhone App of the Year in 2011, making it a fairly safe bet for Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg. He pledged to continue to develop Instagram as an independent brand and said the takeover would complement Facebook's increasing focus on photo sharing. Analysts say it was also a ploy to keep the popular Instagram out of the hands of Facebook competitors like Google or the new site Pinterest. It's an investment Facebook can well afford, more than 8 years after it was launched as a tiny startup. It's expected to be valued at as much as $100 billion in an initial public offering of stock when it floats on the NASDAQ later this year.
Okay, let's stay with the tech sector just a moment as we catch up on one or two more of the day's business headlines for you. Shares in AOL have nearly doubled in value. That's after a $1 billion technology transfer sale to Microsoft. Microsoft announced it's buying 800 patents from the internet service provider. The deal sent AOL shares surging 43% to close at just over $26. Patent acquisition has become a valuable business as technology firms like Microsoft, Google, and Apple sue each other over copyright infringements.
Alcoa is expected to kick off a disappointing earnings season with a second consecutive loss. The world's biggest aluminium producer is forecast to report earnings of 4 cents a share, compared to 27 cents for the same period in 2011. The firm has lost nearly half its market value over the past 12 months.
And the potential takeover of Avon products has been complicated after the door-to-door cosmetics firm appointed a new chief executive. Sherilyn McCoy, who ran Johnson & Johnson's pharmaceutical division, takes over just as Avon is fending off a $10 billion bid from French rival Coty. Avon's CEO Andrea Young will remain as chairman. The firm's shares fell 3%, compounding a 19% decline in the last year.
Next, the start of an all-nighter at Heathrow Airport. Emirates wants to break the curfew.
It wants to break the curfew that's been in place for quite some time now, Melissa. We're talking about one of the world's busiest airports with some 70 million passengers carried last year. Now, there is a strict curfew in place, which basically means that most flights cannot take off or land between 11:30 at night and around 6 in the morning. Just around 18 flights are allowed to land there shortly before the end of that 6 a.m. curfew. Now, what Emirates wants to do is to breach that curfew by being able to take off and land up as late as 1 a.m. and maybe start again as early as 4 a.m. And they think that by doing that, they'd be able to increase their services from a current 5 services to Dubai per day to around 7. But of course, expect other airlines to want to get in on the action as well. It's all because of the A380 Super Jumbo. If you've travelled in one, you'll know they're quiet when they take off. They're pretty quiet when they land as well. Now, Emirates thinks that they can sort of land a little bit more steeply on the runway and they can reduce noise by around 25%.
Of course, it's a massively sensitive area, Owen. Frankfurt Airport has just announced, it has just banned night flights, rather, and huge opposition in Britain to any kind of change, one would imagine, to that system.
Absolutely right. There's been huge opposition to extending capacity. A third runway was on the cards. Luckily for those protesters who live in and around Heathrow, the coalition government in the UK is committed to opposing a third runway. The problem is they're going to be under massive pressure to expand capacity in the UK. It's at breaking point already. This would circumvent that third runway problem somewhat by basically having more flights in the air at night. And there is serious commercial pressure at play here. Lufthansa, for example, you mentioned there, Frankfurt, it's losing out heavily, it says. It thinks it'll lose around 40 million euros a year because of that ban on night flights. That'll be a loss to its cargo division. It's also issued a profit warning. So there's a lot of commercial sensibilities at stake here.
Hard, of course, to imagine London losing its preeminence.
Well, this is it. Some of these Gulf airlines would be able to say, well, maybe we're a little bit more attractive. Places like Dubai don't have those constrictions in place. They can fly their planes in and out of Dubai all night. But I don't think we're going to see the end of London as a business centre just yet. It's perfectly poised, of course, for business meetings. And also, London Heathrow serves nearly 200 airports around the world. So a huge, huge range of places to fly from London.
Now we're moving to Afghanistan. The country's first bowling alley has opened its doors in Kabul. It's the brainchild of a young entrepreneur who decided that $1 million was a small price to pay for a bit of normality after decades of turmoil.
When Mina Rahmani returned to Kabul after almost 2 decades away, she realized something striking. There was nowhere for both men and women to hang out and have fun. In Afghanistan, many men still treat women as second-class citizens, but Rahmani, who is just 27 years old, is one of a growing number of female entrepreneurs fighting back against the system.
Most of the people around me, they were like, it's a risky thing that you're bringing. It's something new and Western in the country.
At the Strikers bowling alley, the security is tight, with armed guards searching guests for weapons and explosives. Last year, a nearby shopping mall was bombed twice by insurgents. Usually, men and women in Afghanistan do not mix, but here they bowl side by side.
Because all the time there are recreational areas, fun places, but it's only for men. Like if there's a swimming pool, it's for men. If it's a park, it's for men. This is the first time that I see there is an opportunity where like women can come as well.
Afghanistan has been racked by more than 3 decades of war, and the trauma, stress, and anxiety of everyday life can be difficult to escape. Unfortunately, at $35 an hour, this pastime is beyond the means of ordinary Afghans. And Kabul's unreliable electricity also means the 12 lanes often stop working. But Rahmani says the bowling center has nevertheless been a huge success. So much so that she's planning to start a league and hopes to open up other lanes across the country.
Bowling in Kabul, and we'll have to give it a try. Thanks very much for that. All the very latest business headlines. It's just coming up to 8 o'clock in a couple of minutes here in Paris. Stuart Norville is going to be back in just a moment with a look at all the very latest headlines. Do stay with us.